Alright, guys, welcome back. We are watching Owarimonogatari Episode 2, Ougi Formula Part 2. Last time, well, we're trapped in a classroom with Ougi. It's very interesting that I was thinking about how interesting it is that right now we're finally seeing, like, the actual introduction of Ougi into the story, right? I kind of want to think about, like, I guess, like, the meta implications of that, right? Like, why we're getting this told to us now, I think that's an interesting question. Uh, anyway, we got a mystery to solve, apparently, to get out of this room. I think Ogi's whole story is she's lying. She's the one who's trapping us in this room, not the ghost of the classroom or whatever. But I don't know. We gotta solve it in order to placate her. Apparently, I wonder. I wonder what she's doing here, right? What is the goal? Is it just to remind Araragi of his past and what made him the way he was? Perhaps, I suppose that makes sense to me. Well, I guess let's see if we can solve that mystery, huh? We're watching Ogi Formula Part 2. You can line down copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. Bunch of names. Everyone in the class must be. I saw. Yeah, we also met Oikura in the last episode. I saw her name. With him at the head of it. Right, right. It could be anyone, I suppose. Ooh. So then that means, yeah, right? Sure, Senjigahara, I see. Ooh, scissors. I guess, it sure is, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure if there are 19 people there. Okay, okay. Like a... Okay, okay. Interesting we get all these objects that I guess are meant to represent these different people. Well, they would have to be like the literal ones on the test, right? Not just like them. Hmm. Did not read that in time. Okay, okay, sure. Hmm. Oh god, Oki. I think there's gotta be more to it than that. There's gotta be more to it than that. Ooh. Okay, okay. The conclusion. Ooh, felt like we were on the right track. That is a line. Ooh, interesting. Betrayed himself. His own morals. Oh, God. That is the creepy. Oh, interesting. There was a false accusation, I suppose, that everyone agreed with. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Ooh, the bell was about to ring, indeed. God, it was that long? That is ridiculous. Hmm. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah. Happiness. Didn't find happiness. What did we find? That is... Ah, God. An interesting thing for Ougi to say. Ougi is such like a sarcastic and I don't know, mean-spirited character, right? It's really hard to know what I should think about anything she ever says. So you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to know her intentions behind anything she says. I'm gonna read the lyrics. Something about a just future. I saw that. Sorry, I wasn't reading it at the start. I'm bad. Full of contradictions. Ooh. Open the door. Yeah, opening the door to Aragi's past, I guess, right? These experiences. A true and just future. Yeah, yeah, that's what Aragi wants, right? Oh, the mistakes we amassed. Okay, interesting. I do like those lyrics quite a bit. Hmm. Oh god. That would be my attitude, frankly, right? Maybe, so say it's her. Who cares? I guess that would be kind of my attitude. It's just like I don't care. I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, who like the class rep maybe? If I don't know who that would be. Oh god. Oh god. It's really getting out of hand. It's really getting out of hand. It's libel. Oh god. Things are really yeah, not going well. Fine. Yeah, like that'd be my attitude. No one listening to Rocky at all. The test couldn't have been that hard, huh? Ooh. I see. I see. Do your duty, huh? Yeah, you threw him into that spot, didn't you? Ooh, interesting. The teacher themselves, perhaps? Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, probably. Well, Aragi might agree. This is a crazy scene. True, right? No point in an alibi. Hmm. Ooh, what does that have to do with it, right? She's so petty. True. Yeah, right. Everyone will just leave. You can't just keep them here. Oh, God. Ooh, really, really. Extreme hatred for him. Okay, it wasn't just an Aragiism at all, huh? She really does hate him that much, huh? Interesting. We gotta think about that. And that got control pretty quick, huh? All the desks just suddenly back in place. If you say so. Okay, I guess. A vote on who the culprit is. Ogi, what are you doing? Oh, I doubt it. I doubt it. Yeah. Oh, voted for him. Right, right. Oh, oh, wow. Because they were all just like pissed off at her for creating this situation. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Swept up by it. That hatred, that disgust. Wow. Interesting. Huh. That alone, huh? That was enough. I guess so, right? Yeah, it makes sense. Interesting. Oh, I love this music. Ooh, it'd be. Oh, God, what is that? Ooh, interesting. I mean, I suppose it could have been her. I don't think it was, though, right? Certainly not. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Why would she create the situation, right? Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And it's Aragi thinking it couldn't have been her alone. That's enough to cause him to think like this, you know? Oh, lost a piece of me. It's like the true nature. Yeah, yeah. It's like the idea that there's this invalid injustice in all of them, you know? Oh, yeah. Your faith in others, your hmm But it's not something that most people have, I suppose. Ooh. I see, I see. And that's what he's so worried about. For himself as well. Interesting. Just isolation over desolation. Oh, God. Okay, okay. No, it makes complete sense. Yeah, yeah. God, look at her. Like, man, that's a problem. Oh, God. Not ready to have you feel better just yet, huh? That's quite the line. Oh, we have to solve it. We have to solve it. Interesting. Right. Oh, that's such a line for her to say. We're not ready for you to feel better yet. Okay, okay. Of course, he would agree with that. Yeah, maybe so. Or, yeah, probably didn't have much of an impact on her as it did on him. Well, maybe not, though. If she still doesn't go to school. I don't know. Right, right. And in a sense, if Ogi is responsible for it, maybe that's a kind of true, right? Interesting. Interesting. Putting the blame on him in a way, right? Yeah. This the regret, right? The guilt. Hmm. Is it a hmm. Okay, okay. I wonder. So what is she trying to achieve by having him ooh, that shadow on his face? Do we? Does he? It wasn't him, right? Certainly not. He wouldn't have this lasting guilt if it was him, right? Not in the same way at all. Is it a truth? Ooh, a truth he didn't want to recognize, maybe? Ooh, told the story this way, huh? Interesting. Responds to his thoughts, right? Hmm. Interesting, interesting. How did he tell the story? In what way, other than viewing it in like a meta way? Struck down by her own deeds. Okay, okay, I suppose. Ooh, I see. I don't know who it was. Oh, okay. Sure. Thanks. So I guess. Yeah, please. Okay. Oh. True. Very true. Sure, sure. Ooh, the teacher was there, huh? Did not catch those in time. Oh, so Tetsujo is the teacher. Okay. Yeah, yeah. That she would have like she'd be one of the people, sure, who would benefit from it. I guess. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Oh, she wants the answer from him, right? Because he already knows, huh? Well, she's the teacher, right? Ah, I see. Ooh, interesting. Oh, okay, okay. Oh god, this is so complicated. Okay, okay. I guess. Could that really make a 20-point difference, though? Maybe. I guess. Hmm. God. Aragi. Well, personal benefit, I guess, right? She wants you to say it. I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. I guess if that's all you think is what matters, though, right? Yeah, Tetsujo herself, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Oh God, Ogi. Oh, this truth he can't run away from. Oh, okay. Thanks, Ogi. Thank you. Wow. How nice of you. How nice of you. Thank God that random oddity let us out now, huh? Wow. Great. Hmm? Oh. Interesting. That hasn't really happened. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. On a shadow. Yeah. Interesting. I yeah, certainly so. Ooh, this is like meta in a way. Right. And she's what? What is she doing? Hmm. Yeah, by an authority figure, right? Your teacher. Yeah, yeah. Right? Yeah, no, more than anything. Mm. Ah, okay, okay. I see. So she was there in the classroom when they were doing all of this, and she didn't, that's crazy. Ooh. What? What's up? Ooh. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, huh? I thought it was just gonna be that she didn't say or do anything, but yeah. Yeah, huh? Oh, she looks so proud, huh? Yeah. She made Aragi face this. Not in any positive way, but just, what, to remind him? Ooh, God. Okay. Right, right. Oh, of course, right. Hmm. Ooh, interesting. I love the music so far. Interesting. It's all just. Oh, yeah, it's all in the past. Yeah. Interesting. Ah. Oh, maternity leave. Okay, okay. Oh, yeah. Huh. How does that feel for him? I wonder. Man, what an impact. Yeah, it's like it permanently undermines the way you view, or even the way you view adults in general, right? Oh, what's up, Hanakawa? God, I love Hanakawa. Oh, bad timing, huh? Tetsujo's here? But Hanakawa wouldn't know anything about any of that, right? Sure. Calm down. Yeah, what? Oh god, not another ghost. Not another ghost. Ah, yeah. Don't have to make you cry, though. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, she's back? She's back. Oikura is here? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, God. Now, hold him off, Hanakawa. We gotta have a talk, I guess. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, God. The ghosts of the past are returning, huh? Ooh. Interesting. It's something like that. Yeah, huh? Okay. Oh god. The next arc better start right with that. That's for sure. Oh god. Oh no. Okay, okay. That was a good episode. Hmm. Interesting. Huh. Explains a lot about how Aragi started thinking like this, right? At least about his distrust in other people and like, you know, it's kind of at the heart of everything for him in a way. Right, it really is, I guess. So what was Ogi's purpose in doing this? To make him face that, but not to change his mind about it. I don't think that's her goal. Because she just forced him to remember it, right? when she said, "We aren't ready for you to start feeling better yet," that really, I think that really paints an idea of what she's doing here. She's not trying to make Aragi feel better, right? Not at all. God, look at her face right there. God, I have not been reading the lyrics to the ending. I'm doing a bad job. I caught the last like two lines. Is that good? Is that good enough? Okay, we will talk about the episode in the discussion. Okay, let's talk about the episode. There's a lot of stuff in this episode. I think I think there's a lot. Too many things maybe. Uh, it's a very good explanation for how at least a part of Araragi's mindset about the world came about. It makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense, right? And there's so many God, I feel like there's so much to it that it's very hard for me. It's probably going to be impossible to even like cover all of it. Not that I'm saying that in any of my discussions I've ever covered every element of anything because it's impossible, right? There's too much. There's too much, but God, it is such a good explanation. Where's Aragi saying the line, huh? The whole, where is it? Where is it? It's somewhere in here. Yeah, here we go. Uh it makes a lot of sense why he reaches this conclusion, right? He knew it wasn't Orkura. Of course he knew it wasn't Orkura. He knew, and seeing everyone just so willingly vote for her like this and seeing, it makes so much sense to me. And even more so, right? I guess my idea of what Ogi's thing here was, what she did, what her whole purpose of bringing Aragi to his classroom was specifically to remind him of all of this, make him confront the fact that it was Tetsujo who did all of this, right? Who because that's the real thing, I think, that undermines his faith in like humanity, right? Is the person who's supposed to be an authority figure, the person who's an adult, the person who's supposed to be all of these things, right? Raised her hand and said it was Oikura. I mean, that's crazy. That is insane, right? What a horrible thing to do, right? Um, Ogi made sure that Aragi like faces that and not doesn't face it in a good way, right? Not at all, Just like when she's doing this, right? Leaning on top of him. Where even is it? It's in here somewhere. When she's leaning on top of him, right? It's like this it's the truth that he has to face, right? Like he's unable to, she's right in his face, making sure he sees it, because I think that's her goal. I guess that makes sense to me, right? She was spawned in at some point from Aragi's like thoughts and feelings and all of this, right? She's an Aragi oddity, um, spawned in from like the God, like what? Like the chain, basically just everything that's happened to him over the story, right? She's like this representation of his system of justice and what he thinks is right and wrong. I guess it's kind of like the same thing. Like the stuff about the darkness is in there too. Like the way he views the darkness is very closely linked to that, and also just like the change that has come to him over all of that time, right? The way that he like wants to judge himself in a way because he sees himself or knows himself to be like breaking those rules, breaking that justice that he thinks is so important. That comes up in this arc too, right? Like so much so, right? Um, everything he says about justice and right and wrong, and the fact that it can be decided by like other by people just like just saying what they think is right or wrong, right? And he thinks that's like fundamentally wrong, right? So of course it's no wonder that he isolates himself completely after that, right? So here's Ogi, the representation of all of those things, right in his face, making him face this thing in his past that made him originally start thinking like that. I think just the goal for her probably is to what? Revert him back, make him start thinking like that again. I guess that makes sense to me, right? It seems like later on, well, it's interesting. It's interesting that Aragi gets that treatment because it feels like everyone else, she judges them in a much swifter and more punishing way, right? And Aragi himself as well later on. It seems like she actively is trying to kill him, right? So I don't know. I wonder why he gets a little gets a little soft, gets such soft treatment here from her, right? All she does is try and undermine all the progress he's made in the entire story and turn him back into being old Araki. Right? What a nice little treat, you know? Because I guess, yeah, I think that's what she's doing. I can't think of any other. She certainly doesn't want to help him like process all of this and help him like get over all this stuff, right? Not at all. I don't think so, right? And I definitely don't think that's the outcome either, right? Like again, we've talked about it several times here. It feels like for Araragi, at least in my perspective, it feels like Araragi he was making very good progress, like as a just and however you want to imagine making progress, right? Just like mentally, emotionally, all of those things, right? Until around well, probably around until now when Ogi showed up, right? And it just feels like it's been downhill for a while since then, right? Just in terms of the way he thinks about himself and thinks about life and about, I don't know, everything, happiness, the road of life, the path that he's on, all of those things. So I think if that was Ogi's goal, then she's succeeded in a way, but it's not like it's enough, right? She's not merciful, that's for sure. Aragi is still breaking the rules in some way. So she still has to judge him. She still has to judge him. There are some crazy shots in this episode of Ogi and Aragi, right? Like, yeah, like this. God, like what? She's just. What is she doing? What is she doing? Right? She's this thing holding on to him. It's like she's trying to. It makes me think of like. I guess I don't even know like the specific thing it makes me think of, but it makes me think of like a soul reaching out from hell, trying to drag him down. You know what I mean? I feel like that's imagery that's used in like a lot of games and like media. That kind of idea. That's what it makes me think of, right? The way she's holding on to him, trying like dragging on to him, right? Like if he got up and started walking right now, she'd be like dragged behind him, right? She's like this representation of all of that weight and all of that of those things of the past that he can't address, that he hasn't been able to deal with, right? Yeah, and I wonder how he ever will. I wonder how he ever will. Like, what is the answer to Ogi? I don't know. Because the answer shouldn't be, um, to say that he himself was somehow fundamentally wrong before, right? If Ogi is a representation of like all of these parts of himself in the past, right? It's like if we're thinking about it in terms of the road, right? I can't get that off my mind ever since Monogatari, right? Um, if the conclusion is that Ogi and what she represents is fundamentally wrong and all of this, right? Then it's almost like that's playing into the idea, right? That's playing into Aragi's idea of the road and the path that he's on in life and all of this, right? Then he would be saying that, oh, the path I was on before, when I thought like Ogi, when Ogi was within me and all of this, right? That was wrong, and I was on the wrong path in life, and that was fundamentally incorrect, and all of these things, right? The way he thinks about this world, the very like black and white way of viewing choices and all of that, it would be very much playing into that if he views it like that. Um, but again, it's like Hanakawa. It's like Hanakawa at the end of Tsubasa Tiger. The whole like there's no moment where you aren't yourself, right? That was Araragi, right? All of that just because you changed, right? Changing as a person isn't some process upon which you're going on to a different path or you're taking a branching path or whatever, right? It's all one path, right? It's all one, just the path of your life, whatever path you're going down, right? It's like the fact that Ogi exists at all is such a strong representation of that, like in Aragi's mind, right? The fact that he views himself now as something so fundamentally different than he was before, that Ogi exists. You know what I mean? So, does that mean Ogi shouldn't exist anymore? I don't really think so. Because I think at this point, since she does exist now, I think it would feel bad if if Aragi's conclusion at the end of all of this with Ogi was to destroy her, to kill her, something like that. That would really just be playing into it, right? That would be saying like, oh yeah, what I was back then was wrong, and Ogi is wrong, and now I'm right. Now I have it, right? That just kicks the can down the road, doesn't it? That just means what? Like in the future, he could have this problem again, right? He could have this problem again. Like, let's say in 5 years from now, him and Shinjigahara break up, and he has all these bad things happen in his life, and all this, he's miserable again for whatever reason, right? It could just all happen again, where he thinks, oh, I must be on the wrong path now, right? No, it's like that fundamental idea that he thinks about the path of life that he's on, and whether or not he's like right as a person and all of this, that is what has to be attacked. That is what has to be broken down, right? And I guess it feels like through what Ogi did in this arc, reminding him of all this stuff that created that mindset in the first place. Yeah, she's reinforcing it, right? Because in a way, she's kind of reinforcing her own existence. I wonder how much of that, like, other oddities for other characters, like the crab, like the tiger, like Black Hanakawa, right? Hanakawa like merging with Black Hanakawa, right? All that stuff. It's very much based on the person who like created the oddity, the person whose like oddity it is in a way, right? Like representative of their feelings and all that. It's very based on like the way that they interact with it. So if Araragi like was cured tomorrow, you know what I mean, of all of his problems, then would Ogi not exist anymore? Does Ogi have to keep Araragi thinking like this to exist herself? Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that Ogi even concerns herself with, right? I don't know if that's something, because like she is an oddity. She is right, so I wonder if she even cares about self-preservation in that way, or if she's like the darkness, right? She just cares about judging people and all of this. I don't know. I guess in a sense, it's like if her job, as she said at the end of Onimonogatari, is to what, like correct the mistaken and all of this. I guess she is still doing that here, right? She views Araragi as someone who is mistaken and who's fundamentally wrong and all of this, right? All the change that has been brought on him over the course of the story. And she's trying to rectify that, right? That was the whole point, right? Man, this was actually a really good arc. Now that I really think about it, this was actually a really good arc, wasn't it? I like in this scene here all of these like little objects we get that represent all these different characters, all the different classmates. It's just I don't know. For some reason, I think it's a cool thing. I don't really know what any of them mean. If they have something to do with like their names or something, maybe. I don't know. Um, Sandra Gahara got a 98, which is crazy. Man, she's the third best, huh? So we've run through everything that happened with the whole study session. So I guess my interpretation of the study session and all of this, I guess it's like what Ogi said, right? That Araragi knew all along, that he must have known all along. Of course he knew all along, right? That it was Tetsujo who did it. But he's doing the Araragi thing, right? He's doing the Araragi thing where he doesn't want to think about it, doesn't want to address it, doesn't want to he prefers to not think about it as much as possible. It's just like what he said in the last episode, how he never forgot anything, right? But he doesn't remember it. That's where he doesn't think about it. He would rather not think about it as much as possible. It's like what they've said a few times about him, that he only sees what's in front of his eyes. That's because it's easier like that, right? Same thing he did with Kiss Shot and vampires. Same thing he did with like Hanakawa and her like loving him back in Bake, all of that, right? All of these things that it's more convenient for him to just not think about, to ignore, right? Because they hurt. It's like an inconvenient truth. And I guess it's like Ogi says it too. It's like the way he told the story. Yeah, the way he told the story kind of hid the truth, because he called the teacher Tetsujo, right? Instead of be like Tetsujo Sensei or the teacher, right? Anything like that. Just threw her in with the lump of all the other students. For one, because that's just how Araki views her now, right? He says in this episode that he was unable to view her as an adult or like an authority figure at all after that moment, which we'll talk about that in terms of like Guy Nizuko and stuff, because I think that's interesting too. And Oshino, I think that's interesting, the way Aragi views authority figures. He didn't mention she was the teacher at all, right? He doesn't want that like knowledge known, I guess, right? He made it impossible for me to like solve it, that's for sure. I don't know if I would have, right? Um, but yeah, the way he told the story, right? Which is very interesting. The other thing about that line, when Ogi says that later, about the way Aragi told the story, it makes me think about why we're getting this arc now, right? Ogi in the story has had this very like mysterious presence, right? She's kind of shown up at like the beginning of every arc for a while, right? Like she was in the first episode of like Kabuki and like Hana and like uh, I don't know, she was in Oni Monogatari, she was kind of mentioned, she's been mentioned in the shadows and all of this, She's been this very mysterious presence, right? Whereas, like, most of those arcs were, like, after this, right? Most of those arcs were after all this stuff with Oki happened, this was in October, right? Um, so Aragi has this relationship with Ogi that we didn't know anything about. That he like in a weird like meta way. If you want to think about like Aragi telling these stories to us, the viewer, intentionally he like left all of this out about Ogi, right? To leave it as this mysterious presence, all of this, right? It's like the same thing about how he doesn't want to think about Tetsujo. He doesn't want to think about it's like an inconvenient truth, right? He doesn't want to think about what Ogi is either, right? It's something that has to be so obvious, right? He's staring right at it, right? He's staring right at what Ogi is. He knows what it is the same way he knew it was Tetsujo, obviously. But he doesn't want to acknowledge that, and he doesn't want to show it to us either, right? Um, and I feel like that's why we're getting Ogi now, right? Obviously, like that's just a very meta way to look at it. Like obviously from like a story writing perspective, I think it makes sense, right? It's like the Ogi mystery has been drawn out for a while, and now we're getting some answers, right? Um, but yeah, in terms of that, it makes a lot of sense to me, right? I wonder, like, God, because in this episode too, that was brought up the idea of stories, right? We got a title drop, Monogatari, right? Of Araragi like telling these as stories, right? Telling these stories to who? To us, the viewer? Is it that meta? Maybe, right? I don't know if we'll ever get an answer for that. Probably not, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just I like that. I like that idea, I suppose, right? Because of course, there's a purpose to the chronology of the story, obviously, right? It's not like you should watch the story in chronological order. That would like ruin everything, right? There's obviously purpose behind it, and it's beyond just creating like a false sense of mystery around Ogi, right? It's like Aragi wanted it to be like this. He didn't want us to know what or who Ogi was, basically. And he still doesn't, right? He still doesn't. The way he said in like the opening scenes of the last episode about how Ogi is just there's no way to define her other than Ogi, right? It's just Ogi. He's unable to address it or think about it yet. Because I guess in a way, addressing what Ogi even is would be such a recognition of the change within himself too, right? That like yeah, especially, like, recognizing everything that she's done, Recognizing, like, the harm that that, like, if Ogi is this, like, the darkness, but for him, right? Like, she enforces the rules, but his rules, then he sees all this harm that she's done, right? And of course, he doesn't want to think about that because that's such a strong, that has to hurt so much. Though, especially, like, the way she targeted Hachikuji or wanted to target Hachikuji as well, right? Because that was, like, the whole thing, And then, like, his version of the darkness would have targeted Hachikuji too anyway, right? Of course he doesn't wanna think about it? God, I've had such a dry mouth lately. So I've been drinking water during these discussions, like, 5 times more than I used to. Okay, okay. So yeah, we run through all this evidence and all this, the desks weren't lined up, stuff was on the board, yeah, yeah, yeah. And there was our little hint, I guess. The stuff on the board. Tetsujo was here early too, right? The teacher, he intentionally doesn't tell us that's the teacher. Intentionally doesn't tell it to himself too, right? Yeah, yeah. Interesting. But Ogi already knows all of this, right? That's like the interesting thing to me, I guess, is it's like, um, God, I guess we got to think of it in that way, right? Like I've been talking about Ogi's goal and all of this whole time, like what her purpose is in doing all of this. But let's think of it in like a oddities aren't real type of way, right? Like what is Aragi doing in this moment, right? Like he's running through all of these past events like in his head through the lens of like what Ogi represents. You know what I mean? I guess, right? Like it's just him reminding himself about all of these things in a way, Because Ogi already knows all of this, right? So I guess it's like when Aragi is telling her these things, right? When he's like when he was telling Ogi about all the stuff that happened to Hachikuji at the end of Monogatari, that kind of thing, right? When he's having these conversations with Ogi, it's like he's talking to himself, but he's talking to like the Ogi part of himself. You know what I mean? Like he has this strong like contradiction within himself about like his view of the world and the right and wrong and all of that stuff. And I wonder if he, like, weighs, like, the different, the different opinions, in a sense, between himself and Ougi, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Oh, yeah, I gotta read these. Orkra couldn't forgive that. She was persistent about continuing this figuring out who the culprit is ordeal. So this, I think this is a big part of this as well. The fact that this happened to Sodachi specifically. So Sodachi hates him. Sodachi despises him. Which we'll talk about that in a second. But also the fact that Orkura wanted to uh, find out who the real culprit is, right? That she wanted to. She is the one who wanted to, like, enact this, like, justice, right? She is the one who wanted, how does Aragi feel about that, that she is the one who put all of this together and was, like, fighting on the side of justice, in a sense, finding the culprit, all of these things, right? Um, that Aragi wasn't able to manage the class meeting himself, and that she had to do it, and then everyone turned on her, right? Does Aragi think that, like, that should have been him, right? That he should have been the one fighting for this justice and all of this, right? That he should have been the one fighting for what was right. He should have been able to handle the class meeting and be the one in charge of it and everything. And instead it was Orkra, and she is the one who I got, everyone turned on her and just decided it must have been her because they're all pissed at her, right? Yeah, yeah. So he has to feel that extreme guilt over it, right? He must, he must. And also Orkra hates him. Orkra hates him, right? Orkura Sodachi, what was the exact line? He said, Orkura Sodachi pathologically despises me. It's very strong language, right? Very strong language. Um, it's interesting. We've never had a character that, like, hates Araki like that, really, I wonder how he feels about that, right? He says that she hates him because he's better at math than her, which is really interesting, right? I wonder, for one, if that's all it is. I was thinking in the last episode that might just be like an Aragiism, and that maybe that isn't, like, the real reality of the situation, but in this episode, it really seems like that's the case, that she really does hate him. Um, I wonder why, right? I don't know, just because he's better than her at math, I guess. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be better at math than her? Like, on like a meta way, right? I don't know. How does Aragi feel about that, right? How does Aragi feel about being better than anyone at anything, right? Because after this, it's almost like self-sacrificially he stops going to school, he starts failing math, right? He never gets a good grade again, all of this, So it certainly left that kind of impact on him, right? He loses faith in math itself, because math is so strongly linked to his idea of, like, this objective system of right and wrong and all of that, right? So of course, right? Of course, he loses faith in that. So he loses faith in math and stops doing well in it. But he also he makes sure, I guess, that, like, no one like Orkra will hate him like this again. Maybe, right? By not standing out at all, by having no part of his life that he's better than someone at. Maybe, right? It definitely really got to him. Obviously, right? Like, of course, the guilt over Orkra is very strong. He says it himself. But I just can't decide. I can't decide what I think about the whole, like, her hating him thing and how he feels about that, right? I think we're getting more of her. That's for sure. So, yeah, she's back. I don't know. She's certainly interesting. That's for sure. We haven't had anyone who hates Araki. You know what I mean? He's always able to smooth things over. So yeah, this whole, and then we'll determine the culprit. This class meeting lasts 2 hours. I won't allow anyone out of the classroom until then. Right, right. Sounds like endless, ugly arguments and fruitless exchanges. I can see you embracing a deep hatred for the human animal amidst that chaos. Not quite. That is not really what led him to the hatred of the human animal, right? God, I love these shots so much of Ougi, like, being like this with Araragi. What drove me to desperation was not the argument. It was the conclusion, of course, right? We felt like we were on the right track. Nobody expected it would end the way it did. We went astray during the final stretches of our pursuit of justice. But that's such an interesting thing for him to say, because nobody else cared, right? Nobody else in the class meeting cared about justice at all. right? Not they literally just did not give a shit, right? It was Oikura who cared about finding the culprit, and then Araragi, of course, he cared about finding the culprit, right? Um, no one else cared, and I guess that's probably a large factor about it too that makes Araragi feel like this, right? I lost sight of my moral compass in that instant. The conclusion? But you said you didn't find the culprit. Lost sight of my moral compass in that instant. And that's such an interesting line, because it's not that Aragi, like, lost sight of his moral compass in terms of, like, he himself did something immoral. No, he lost sight of, like, what a moral compass even is, or what it should be, because of, like, the way, like, fundamentally this concept of morality and justice changed forever for him upon seeing all these people like decide what's right like that when he knew it was wrong. I obviously what it reminds me of is when he was talking to Karen at the end of Karen B, and he said like, oh, you can't let other people's opinions like influence what you think is right or whatever, right? It was something like that. No, that's like directly like a callback to this for him for sure, right? um Yeah, he thinks it has to be something that you yourself decide on, right? You can only trust yourself because you're in your own head. You only know how you yourself feel for sure. Uh, Not that most people are under complete understanding and control of their own emotions, right? But maybe more so, and maybe easier than you can understand other people, right? Because other people can lie to you, other people can do all these things. So yeah, he thinks it has to be internal. It has to be a purely something you purely decide for yourself, right? And God, it's interesting as I say that though, right? Because you can lie to yourself, of course, right? Hiroki kind of is in a way with all this Ogi business. He kind of does all the time with the vampire stuff, Hanakawa, so many things, right? He lies to himself. No one's infallible. I guess that's just kind of a testament to the fact that like yeah, Aragi's idea of justice in all of this, it has to be wrong, right? There's no way for this objective justice to like exist, right? Yeah, it can't be because no one's infallible, right? There's no way for it to always work, right? And if anything, I mean, like in a way, laws and stuff that exist in society today, I mean, those are things that as people we like decided on for the most part, right? That's a different process than what happened to Sodachi, I guess, right? Because these are all a bunch of stupid kids who were just pissed at her and they voted for her, right? Uh, yeah, yeah. We did not find the culprit, indeed, but we decided on who it was, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. That's the reason for my despair. Coming to a decision beyond one's knowledge. That's what drove me to despair. Interesting, interesting. And he worries about that so much. It just makes me think, like, a decision beyond your knowledge. That's something that Araragi thinks about all the time. With, like, the road, right? The path that he's on in life, right? The branching paths of the future, all of that. He doesn't know which one to go down. He has no idea, right? Where his life should lead him or what path he should take. And that's something beyond his knowledge, right? That's why I think he has so much trepidation and so much worry about, graduating high school and all of this, right? Hmm. God, Ogi's like a snake here. Man, look at her face. The bell was about to ring indeed. Surely the patience of those inside the classroom is being tested after 2 hours of discussion. I would not sit around for 2 hours after school to talk about someone cheating on a test, right? I would not do that, right? How did none of them just get up and leave in the middle of this already, right? God, they all actually, right? You're really testing their patience, huh? Hmm. Oh yeah, what did it come to? How extremely fascinating. I'm so curious. How I wish everyone would have lived happily after overcoming all that endless, unruly garbage. I don't know what to make of this line that Ogi says here. She's such like a sarcastic character. She always says stuff in this really like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what she's trying to get across saying this. I'm just not sure, right? Hmm. I don't know. Does Ogi herself like scorn her own existence? You know what I mean? Like what does she think about herself? What does she think about I don't know. I don't know. It's such an interesting question, right? Obviously, the thoughts and feelings that Ogi kind of represents did lead Aragi himself to like suicidality like in Kizu, right? So I wonder how Ogi feels about herself and her own existence then, right? Like, as I was saying earlier, I feel like we shouldn't destroy Ogi, and that Ogi, like it would be the wrong answer for her to not exist anymore. Would Ogi herself fight against that? You know what I mean? Would Ogi want to be destroyed? I don't know. I don't know. We didn't find happiness. But then just what did we find? Well, Aragi, you found despair, so rough, I guess. And we get this crazy scene. This is actually such a good scene. Just this insane, like, it's a chaotic lunacy. I don't even know, right? It's all this stuff, right? That's out of Aragi's control, right? He's completely unable to handle the situation, right? He views himself as someone who is like such a person of justice, like an arbiter of justice, kind of himself, right? And all of these things, right? And yet this is a situation he cannot get a handle on. He can't control it all, right? Hmm. And it's interesting because it comes from someone that he would never suspect, right? It comes from a I wonder if his attitude about authority figures before was like better than it is now, right? Like he respected Tetsujo and like cuz he said after this he couldn't view her as an adult anymore. Um so beforehand he did, right? He did, So it was kind of like an impossible, if he I don't know if his head ever would have gone to that to think that it must have been her, right? I guess I just don't understand how like, why would she do this? Right? Like, that's crazy. Not like cheat like this. I don't care about any of that. I just care about the raising her hand, voting for Sodachi. Right? That's crazy. That is crazy, isn't it? Like, man, insane. Insane. You realize that's libel, right? Libel is like an official, like, legal thing. Like, come on. There's a little, like, Shinjo moment in here. Aragi got full marks. The test clearly couldn't have been that hard. That's mean. That's mean. Hey, Senjugahara-sama, what do you think? Senjugahara-sama, just what she wanted to be called in episode 1. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you. Aragi, do your duty. If you were the homeroom teacher and taught math and your students had bad grades, you'd be in a bad position, right? It's for respect in the staff room. Makes the principal think you're doing a good job. That person was right on it. That person was right on it, huh? It's kind of like the only hint we had. That's the only hint we had about who possibly would have done it, but we didn't even know that this Tetsujo person was the teacher. So I don't know how. I don't know how we would have figured that out, huh? Math is the most beautiful of all academic pursuits. God, like that's the other thing too, right? Like not only is Oikura like another person like fighting for justice like this in a way, she's another person who loves math so much, right? Someone who maybe, unlike Aragi, didn't give up on math so easily, right? I guess maybe we'll see, right? Because she's back. It probably makes Aragi feel like inferior, maybe, right? Feel like again, it's just the same thing. He should have been able to handle this situation himself. Oikura, someone who admired math, who liked math like him, who's fighting for justice, fighting the culprit, all of this. She's the one who gets voted for and everyone turns on, Yeah, yeah. Huh. So he runs up to Oikura, asks her for help, asks her to stop it, right? Asks her to stop the situation. It's like this. It's like him saying that he gives up here, right? This must be what he regrets so strongly, right? He gave up on justice in this moment, right? He put it in the hands of the many, right? He put it in the hands of everyone to just decide now, right? When yeah, there must be so much regrets about how he should have been able to figure it out. He should have been able to be the one to like, to be on the side of justice. Yeah, yeah. I forgot how fiery her hatred for me is, huh? I hate you. No kidding. Why, though? Is it just math? Is it really just math? I feel like there has to be more to it than that. You know what I mean? You really need to do something to fix that part of you. Jesus. Hmm. So Orkura yells at all of them. They all fall back in line. And we take a vote. We take a vote, which that is also interesting. Because I've been saying all this stuff about Orkura being being on the side of justice and all of this. But I guess before this moment, maybe Aragi could have done the same thing, right? He didn't have this lack of faith and trust in other people's opinions about justice, right? So maybe Sodachi was just kind of the same, you know. I guess I wonder, like, what did Sodachi take from all of this, you know? If the lesson Aragi took from this is to never trust anyone and to you know, never let other people interact with him at all because they're going to taint who he is and all of this, you know. Their opinions will ruin him and destroy what makes him himself and all of this, right? What lesson, what message did Sodachi take from this day, right? It couldn't have been a good one, you know? It could not have been a good one. Because, like, yeah, no, right? Just a large section of the class colluded to turn you, Aragi-senpai, into the culprit. Well, no, not exactly, right? Orko was the only one who voted for me. Suspect number 6 collected the most votes, that being Oikura Sodachi. Oh, and like all these little statues of the people raising their hands, right? That's all you can view them as, I suppose, right? I cannot forget that look of sheer disgust. Ooh, the shadow on him. I believe I was swept up by it. She never came back to school, neither to exams nor to class. I think she is still covered for in the attendance record of a senior class somewhere. But yet she comes back now. That's very interesting that she comes back now, right after Ougi had this conversation with Araragi, isn't it? I wonder, was that planned somehow? I don't know. Ever since then, I skipped school even more than before. I felt an unspecific but lasting guilt for going to a school that Orkra did not attend. Yeah, makes sense to me. His guilt over the whole situation. And I also never again scored full marks in mathematics. Yeah, lost his faith in it. Yeah. God, this shot right here. This is crazy. This is a crazy shot, right? Like, look at this. It's like he's being. I don't even know. I don't even know what imagery this like makes appear in my mind, but it's something very striking. I don't know. It feels like religious, you know. It feels like a. I don't know. I believe he shouldn't shoulder too much. Didn't someone say that Orkura Senpai was the prime suspect? Nobody told her to plan that meeting. Interesting. Interesting that Ougi says that Aragi shouldn't shoulder that much, huh? Because Aragi himself, obviously, for a long time, has had that attitude of you know solving people's problems for them, doing all this stuff, right? Feeling like he has to be responsible for all of these things for all these people in his life. You know, he has to fix their problems, all of that kind of stuff. You know, so it's interesting that Ougi says that. You know, but I guess you could just say that part of Aragi isn't something that Ougi represents, right? I don't know. I don't know. It's her own decision. She would have no reason to do that as the culprit. Yeah. It couldn't have been her. It couldn't have been her. Hmm. I saw what was right. I saw what was right being fabricated out of thin air, witnessed an utterly absurd conclusion, and lost a piece of me there. A bit of my sanity, perhaps. The majority of students raised their hand without conspiring to, without communicating with each other. Yeah, it's like this fundamental, like, injustice in their hearts or something, right? That's how Aragi could, like, take it, you know? He could view it as, like, this fundamental thing in them that has led them to, you know, like, yeah, man, because that's how he views it. That's how he views right and wrong. That's how he views justice. He views it as this fundamental thing, right, within you, you know. And he sees for all of them, he knows it's wrong, right? So yeah, no wonder, no wonder. I lost sight of the truth. I lost it entirely. Up until that point, I believed something like truth or justice existed. Before then, I understood that you couldn't always do what's right and just. But if many people acknowledge something, even if it's false, cruel, or stupid, I've realized that it can simply become true and just, and that has to undermine, you know, undermine everything, undermine all of the change that he himself has gone over the whole story, right? This it has to be such an effective attack for Ogi to make on like on his mentality about everything that's happened to him, right? Because he could always say, in terms of like his own change as a person over the course of the story, that that's all that this is that's him manufacturing this his own version of justice, and that it's not right, you know, that it could be fundamentally wrong and he's just deciding that it's true even though it isn't, right? Or that it's right even though it isn't, right? Like the path that he's on, the way he's changed over the course of the story, all of those things, you know? That if he yeah. And I guess it's like the idea is for Aragi, if he doesn't have a like a rule book to follow, like a correct path to take, a system of justice that is objective and is right, um, then he can't be living his life correctly, right? That's how he thinks about it. Oh God, because like if he allows his mind to be changed by others, then yeah, that's the risk that is open up to him, and obviously all of the change that has happened to him over the course of the story has been so much because of other people, because that's how life works, right? So, uh, I came to realize that truth can be mass produced like toy cars. The right number of people establishes what is true and just. The majority can manufacture justice. And so I chose isolation over desolation. I don't need friends. You become less human when you make friends. God, what a good explanation. What a perfect like backstory for that line, huh? Just perfect, perfect. What a great way to explain how he ever started thinking that. That was my only choice to protect my own personal truth and justice. Yeah, yeah. That was the story of Araki Kiyomi, huh? Thanks for listening, Ogi-chan. You were right. It wasn't a big deal in the end. I feel better now. That's a problem. We're not ready to have you feel better just yet, Araki-senpai. I love this line. I love this line. Because it feels like meta to me in a way. Or kind of like she's referring to more than just this situation, right? That's kind of like what Ougi is. Ougi is this obstacle in the way. This thing that is making it so Araki can't feel better just yet, right? That Aragi can't just feel good about his life until he deals with what Ougi is and what Ougi represents for him, right? So yeah, we aren't ready for him to feel better yet about his life, about himself, about the change that has happened to him over the story, right? Yeah, yeah. If the story ends with Orikuro-senpai not being the culprit, then we'll be stuck in this room. Indeed, indeed, she wants to lead him to who the culprit is, make him face that reality, right? Make him face that truth. We must do what you couldn't do that day without resorting to majority rule, but alone as individuals. I love the way she says this, right? Because, like, there are two of them, right? There's two of them here, right? But they are it's kind of just one individual, frankly, because it's Ougi and Araki, right? So, yeah, I think that's kind of funny. That Orikuro's grudge produced this classroom, right? And there's a certain logic to me being trapped here. Oh, and these regrets. This must be what he feels, right? About her. Perhaps Oikura still hasn't forgiven me, just like that day. Yeah, interesting. Hasn't forgiven him. Forgiven him for what? Right? Forgiven him for what? What does he need to be forgiven for? Right? There has to be some kind of history between them that we don't know about yet, right? Something that makes Sodachi hate him that we aren't aware of, right? Because forgive him for what? I guess for just not fighting for her there. I guess you could just say that, right? But there has to be something more that makes her hate him like this, right? There has to be something. I need her side of the story. You know what I mean? That's what I really want. But I don't know. Ogi says that she must have forgotten him, which is interesting. Hmm. She says that it's his own heart, his own regret over it that gave rise to it, right? Of course, she wants to like amp up the importance of this in his head, right? Of this room, of all of these experiences, all of that, right? Yeah, yeah. If you had found the correct culprit back then, Oikuro Sodachi's life would not have imploded. You would not have lost justice. That is such a, she's putting all of that weight on him, right? She is blaming him, right? She's blaming him for losing his justice, right? That's what she's trying to restore in a sense, right? Yeah, yeah. You've been in search of the truth and justice you lost ever since then. So, we've got to solve it. We've got to solve the case, huh? Gotta redo the class meeting and together find the culprit, the real one. But we already know, and Aragi knows too. He sure does. He sure does. And his reflection, huh? You know who the real prime suspect should have been. It's quite obvious from listening to you. It wasn't to me, Ogi. So I guess you're way smarter than me, cause like Jesus. I did not. I didn't figure it out. That's for sure. The reason your empathy for Ikura Sodachi's situation is stronger than it has to be is because you subconsciously know the real culprit. Right, right. But it is something that he's even beyond just subconsciously, something that he's definitely thought about, right? Of course. He must have, right? Because he literally says that he stopped viewing Tetsujo as an adult since then, all of this. So we gotta try and find out the culprit. Ogi gives us a challenge, but I didn't figure it out, that's for sure. Even with all the clues, unfortunately. But yeah, it makes sense in retrospect, right? Like I don't know, I could imagine like piecing it together, like not really though, right? You have to make some extreme logical jumps, right? Some extreme logical jumps, right? Of like the idea that the other person who came early to the classroom was probably the teacher, so therefore Tetsujo is the teacher, and then you have to like think about the fact that she would benefit from the you have to make all of these logical jumps to we reach a very like wishy-washy conclusion that like maybe it could be the teacher, right? It seems impossible to me. I don't know. I guess that hint, I didn't think about that, but like I don't know. I guess I could have thought of that. So Aragi, it wasn't that you weren't permitted to sit down by Okura, but perhaps you weren't able to sit down in the first place. Sure, sure. That's not enough to prove that she's the culprit. And that is very interesting if the homeroom teacher, Tetsuja herself, was sitting in Araragi's seat, huh? Isn't that, I don't know. I wonder how he felt about that. I wonder how he feels about that. You know? Probably every time he sat in that seat again for the rest of the time he was in this class, that's all he thought about. The time she was sitting there. Hmm. But yeah, it makes sense, right? It makes sense why she did it, I guess, right? Like it's kind of a weird thing to do. It's a weird way to like cheat, I guess, right? She saw what they were studying in the study session on the blackboard, adjusted the questions on the test to match like what they were doing, right? Or some of the questions. And that alone was enough to come up with a 20-point difference between the people who were there and the people who weren't. That's crazy to me. I don't understand how it is. That's such a huge difference, right? I don't know how that makes a 20-point difference, but like I guess, I suppose. I guess I can imagine it. I don't know. I don't know. Sure. Why not? Hmm. This is also an interesting thing for Rogi to say. If the entire class got good grades, their personal deviation from the average would decline. Do people really think of it like that? Do people really compare themselves? Is that all that matters? Is you compared to the other people in the class, right? Maybe, I guess, right? I don't think of my grades like that, unless just every single course in Japan is like curved like that. So it like literally does matter. Your grade like changes based on how other people did. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could read Japanese so I could tell who all of these people are. Where's Sindrugahara? Where's she doing on here? Where's Araragi? As Araragi has like a 0 in everything other than math, right? One person whose standing improves if the entire class gets good grades. Yeah, the teacher herself, indeed. Oh god, Ogi is so creepy. And let's go home. All right, thanks Ogi. Thanks for letting us out. I love how she just like does away with the illusion completely and just lets him out. Right? She just touches the door, the craziness fades away, and we can just leave. Right? How nice of you. How nice of you, Ogi. Thank you. Thank you. Our time continues. The clock starts ticking yet again. The clock towards, I don't know, the end of our life, I suppose, from Aragi's perspective. Vampires need permission to enter rooms and buildings. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that vampires need permission to enter rooms and buildings. What does that mean, right? What does that like mean? I don't know. I don't know, right? Because like I certainly have my perspective of what it means to like be a vampire, right? What is that in specific? Needing permission to enter a room or building? God, I don't know, right? You're a guest, right? It makes you a guest, right? Perhaps the same way that Aragi views the other people in his life. Maybe views himself as just a guest, right? Like he has this resistance to forming connections with others, to allowing himself to like feel those connections and really view himself as being like he has these hangups with all these people with his relationships with everyone, right? Senjogara, Hanakawa, everyone, right? So maybe he views himself as like a guest in a way, you know, someone who's not really part of it the same way as other people are. That's all I can think of. I don't know. And every song is pretty special, I suppose. So it's about not being able to leave instead of enter, so I wanted to reference it. I guess. No, no, no. Ougi would never imprison you. Right, right. You've been a prisoner of your past for 2 whole years. So yeah, she doesn't view herself. She views him as what, right? Because she kind of is like a representation of that of the his old mindset and everything that he kind of escaped from, that he kind of was a prisoner from for a while, right? Hmm. But how does she view it? I don't know. I don't know. It was only natural that you felt betrayed, Aragi-senpai. When your teacher, a moral figurehead, cheated. Tetsujo-senpai then atoned by using her influence to keep Oikura from failing classes due to lack of attendance. Okay, okay. It's all self-serving. She wants to believe she's a great human being. And Ougi stops him. Doesn't let him leave till he finishes his thoughts. What threw me into despair was that Tetsujo herself froze her hand, which is crazy, right? That is crazy. That is insane, you know? And it just makes me think about Aragi's, like, thoughts about authority in general, right? Like, the way he just views authority figures in the entire show, right? He has this, like, he, his attitude towards Gai Nizuko, for example, right? He feels very unsettled by her. And she's presented to us in this very unsettling way, right? Which, like, you could say is through, like, Aragi's eyes, right? That's the way he views her. And Gai Nizuko is, like, the ultimate authority figure, you know what I mean? She knows everything, right? Oshino, right? His relationship with Oshino is weird, right? They were friends. He certainly looked up to Oshino in a way, but there was also, like, it was pretty tumultuous at times, right? Like in Neko Monogatari Kuro, right? Um, I don't know. It's just thinking about Aragi and the way he views like any kind of authority figure. Like, of course, that's undermined here so much, right? Yeah. All the desks flattened. That's very interesting. Mission accomplished from Ougi's perspective, perhaps. Went back there, no classroom, nothing there at all. It is all in the past and done with. Very interesting. Very interesting. Can't return to it. And it's something that's, that's beyond you now. It's something that's happened. You can't change it, no matter how much you regret it, right? It's not there anymore. Yeah, it's all in the past. Yeah. So, yeah, Tetsujo isn't around anymore. She's on maternity leave. Which is, I wonder how Aragi thinks about that, right? I don't know. I don't know. Unlikely to return before I graduate. I'll never see her again. When I saw her raise her hand 2 years ago, she stopped being a teacher or an adult to me. Yeah, and I think it undermined what being a teacher or an adult is for you, for everyone, you know? Yeah. Anyway, Hanakawa. I love Hanakawa. Thank God. I love how much Hanakawa we're getting. She was all over the place in Monogatari. She's back. We didn't have her for so long. Like that long gap between like the end of Tsubasa Tiger and then like Hitagi end when she finally showed up again. Man. And this is after Tiger, right? So yeah, she's like dyeing her hair. Right, right. So Sodachi Okura is back. Is scary. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. It's kind of a ghost in a way. It is kind of a ghost of the past, huh? Yeah, yeah. A classmate came back to school who hasn't been here in a long time indeed. Oh man. It's Oikura-san. She spent 2 years studying alone at home. It's almost like she switched places with Tetsujo-sensei. You don't get along with her, right? It's indeed. He sure doesn't. He sure doesn't. So what's that gonna mean? How's Araki gonna feel about that? What is that gonna... Oh god, what's gonna happen? I don't know, right? Facing another part of his past, another thing that it's so much like... I think it's Sodachi has to be a large part of why Aragi is the way he is, right? Just that guilt and regret he feels about her and all of everything that happened in that classroom, everything, right? So I just wonder, what would it mean for him to like what make amends with her? To like can he absolve himself of that guilt in some way? But Ogi's here, right? We're in Ougi territory, so I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I hope we'll see next time. So if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe. Leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.